back to the College Cinephile. I'm Coleman. Joining me today is Aerik, and today we're going to talk about the new entry into the Conjuring universe, The Curse of La Llorona. So this I don't know where it fits chronologically in the Conjuring universe, but it's about a old Mexican spirit that drowned her kids and then was sad about it, and so tries to find other kids to drown. That's the basic premise. So Linda Cardellini plays the mother of two kids, and she's a welfare caseworker who discovers that the spirit is back and killing people. And after two other boys get killed, the spirit comes after her own children, and the story evolves just her and her family trying to survive and eventually get rid of the spirit. So the first thing that I think this movie does kind of well is it plays really well on the folklore of the movie. And I'm not someone of like Hispanic descent, so it's not something in my life, but I know, Aerik, it's more in yours.
It is, and so what I love, first of all, La Llorona is one of the scariest characters in the world of children's fables, and she's someone that one of the characters mentioned how she prayed to La Llorona to come after this woman. That actually is real life. Like, people do that. They light candles, and she's the spirit that people believe will help whenever you've lost a loved one. So there's some interesting things with the folklore that they utilize throughout the film, and I loved that. I thought it was really interesting. If you are a fan of the folklore or you know anything about the story, you know that she's essentially it's a tale of a broken heart. So it's this woman who she finds out that her husband or her fiance on her wedding day has been having sex or been with someone else and is leaving her. And so to get back at him, she goes and she drowns the children in a jealous rage, and then realizes what she did. And then after she realizes what she did, she freaks out and goes searching for other children to replace those children in order to try and get her loves back. So the whole idea is, you've lost your love, you want to find someone to come back. And that's creepy. I mean, that's so scary. And this film did a good job of catching with that folklore and really grasping you. So like, if you're someone who loves that, I think it did a suspenseful job of making you understand that, but also really being freaked out. So fans of that will love this film.
I'm a really big fan of all kinds of like myth and folklore and stuff like that. So I think this film adapts it really well into something more like modern horror. For me,
which the Conjuring movies really do a good job with.
For me, that's probably the only good thing I'm going to say about this movie. I did not like this movie. I don't think it's very good. And I think a place to kind of start with the criticism maybe is on the performances. Because there are some good actors in this movie.
There are, definitely. Linda Cardellini.
The performances aren't very good. Linda Cardellini plays the mother of the main character mother. Raymond Cruz plays an ex-priest and now kind of like spiritual warrior named Raphael. Roman
a curandero or a shaman.
Yeah, Roman Cristal plays the young son, and Janie Lynn Kinchin plays the daughter. That's kind of the main cast. The child actors are fine for child actors, but they're nothing really to write home about. They're not anything special, really. Linda Cardellini, I think, is a talented actress, and she's been in some other really interesting roles, but this movie maybe just doesn't give her enough to do. She has moments where I think she plays well as like a concerned mother, and not only for her own children, but other children in general. But I don't think it's capitalized well enough on them.
See, and I agree with Linda Cardellini, definitely. I think she was a little underutilized. It was good. She did a good job of creating the story base, but then I think she went straight to scared and fear, and that's all that she was throughout most of the movie, which is understandable. She's a mother, she's worried, and I would have liked to see a few more levels, but I don't think that was her fault. But I will disagree on the children. I loved these kids. I thought they were really interesting. They were really... first of all, I love Hispanic actors in anything, and I loved that this was a really well put together Hispanic cast, and that was fantastic. And the way that I really bought into who these children were, and it was good. And the little girl, she was scared. She had the moments, like she had the real drowning moments with La Llorona, which was really cool and really creepy. And it was very Linda Blair in The Exorcist. So I think the kids did really well, in my opinion. But, that's where the differs come from. As far as suspense goes, I think the film did a fantastic job, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think we're probably going to disagree here too. I think the film tries a couple techniques, more like on the side of technical aspects, to create suspense that I don't know if they always work. The director, I think, is really fond of long takes in some situations. The film opens with one, and then about halfway through the movie, I think in maybe not the introduction of the spirit, but when she is like officially haunting the family, there's another long take through the house that follows the family as they're like preparing to fight the spirit. And I just don't think these long takes are doing enough for the movie. I think the director knows that long takes are something, good, but I don't think he knows why they should be used. And I think that could be said for a lot of the technical choices. There's another sequence where there's a bizarre editing choice where it's the camera will like show something and then it'll fade out and it'll fade back in and show something for another 1 or 2 seconds and then it'll fade out and fade back in. And I think it's just exemplifying that the director has some ideas for some technical aspects to create suspense that don't ever really play off.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I really think that there are moments when it didn't know what kind of scary movie it wanted to be on a directorial perspective. It really definitely there were some really cool shots. Like there was a single cam shot in the beginning that kind of set the tone for what their lives were like when they're going to school, getting ready and moving. And I love that. And I was like, ooh, is this going to be like that through the whole thing? And then it didn't come back. I mean, they just did that for that moment to show the hecticness. I get it. But like, I really wish that it had kind of stuck with, 1 or 2 kind of camera movements to really not play on playing so many different type of technical things to kind of trick you into being afraid or enjoying something. And so I will say that. But I think in terms of suspense, the characters were very good at just being in the world and being present. And I really think that if you know the folklore, again, it's really interesting because, she appears from behind the shadows, or they use, these beautiful, imagery of fabrics and things that she kind of enters in, and that's scary. And it's interesting. And I think you're waiting to see what's going to happen. And so it was really suspenseful.
I think when it comes to suspense, I think the most important thing is always going to be like the monster, the villain.
And that's what I was going to say is where it lacks is the payoff. You miss the payoff. The suspense is there and it's cool, and then the payoff happens and you go, really? And then it does it again. You think, oh, here I go. Really? And I was bummed at that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of sad.
I think something that's pointed to a lot in creating suspense is the movie Jaws, right? And they say that it's the movie is so scary, or at least the concept of the shark is so frightening because they show it so little. It's this unknown enemy that is out there somewhere, but it can strike at any time. And I think if they had done that a little bit more with the spirit here, it would have been a little bit more, actually scary, because they hint at her a little bit using mirrors. They hint at her with foreshadowing and drops of like water. But then about like a third of the way through the movie, they give up on just hinting at her and just show her repeatedly and repeatedly.
Yes.
And the more you see her, the less scary she becomes.
I absolutely agree. And that's, they really should have stuck to some of those Hitchcockian tropes, which I think, again, was the directing issue, is that they really should have stuck to that, not showing her, but keeping in the shadows, or the blowing of the wind and the water kind of coming around, and the playing with the fabrics. That would have been scary as... Yeah, it would have been scary AF. I'm telling you right now. It would have been crazy. But then they show her, and I was not a fan of the way they depicted her in general, because it kind of looked like the nun, and I think the nun did it better with the black, the black tears, which were cool, but I just think the character could have been realized a little bit more scary, and I don't know what they could have done to change that.
Yeah, and this movie is set in the broader universe of The Conjuring, and
Yes.
there's a lot of movies in this shared universe now. I have not seen any of them except for this movie, and I know you have. So I don't know how it stands up to the horror and the scare factor in the other movies, but I want you to talk about that a little bit.
Well, with the Conjuring films, you've got, Annabelle, and you've got all of the Conjuring movies. They're scary. Like, they are, because I think what makes them scary is that they're real. Like, they're true and honest stories that have happened, or supposedly true stories, and that's amazing. And I think this does a good job of doing that, and so it fits well into the Conjuring world. And I want to see another one. I really do. I could really enjoy seeing this in a more modern world and seeing a more modern take, because it was done in the 70s.
There's another Annabelle movie coming out, isn't there?
Yes,
yeah.
And she peeked out in the movie as well. She makes a little appearance, and they allude to things with dolls and stuff. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, definitely.
My final thoughts on the movie, I don't think it was as scary as it could have been. I think there's a great premise in this movie and a great background with the folklore, but the technical aspects and the script hold it back a little bit from being as scary as it could be. So in the end, I think I would give this movie I'd give it probably a 1.5 out of 5. I'm not a huge fan.
There are 3 different types of scary. And this film, when it fits into the different types of scary films, it was scary, but it lacked a little bit, because you weren't haunted afterwards. I wanted to be haunted afterwards. I wanted to really be haunted by the image and not be able to go home and be freaked out. And I just don't think it did a good job of scaring me in that way. But it gave a few jump scares, and there's one of the types of scary. It was not a jump scare film, and it was not a slasher film. So it was more of a story, kind of wanting you to get scared. So what do I give it? I probably give it a 2.5, sadly, because I wasn't really freaked out when I left the theater. I do say go see it if you're a fan of the folklore. You will love it. You will be scared. You will enjoy every bit of it. It's worth the watch. But on a film perspective, it was about a 2.5.
Thanks for joining us on another review from the College Cinephile. Tell us what you thought down in the comments of this movie. If you liked our review, go ahead and leave us a like. And if you want to see more content from us, subscribe and hit the little bell so you can know when we upload more reviews. Catch us next time when we review other movies.